Hello viewers and welcome to another episode of Trash Talk on Flying Circus, where I talk about the planes in the book. In this episode, let's talk about the rest of the airplanes in the core airplane catalog, part 2, starting with the Theler Eclipse ZD, another big dumb bomber. As strategic bombing went from mere speculative theory to integral strategy of air warfare, of the many vehicles used for this task, the Theler Eclipse was by far the most widespread, going through a large number of modifications over its service life. Originally, the Eclipse was developed to bomb the field outposts used to anchor UWF Air Destroyers in rural areas of Lohner, which were a constant thorn in the side of attacking forces. Their wild success in this role led to them supplementing bombing airships in attacking cities, industrial towns, and army bases, and soon they were being upgraded and widely produced. Starting with the ZC model, the Eclipse gained a gun tunnel, a slot in the tail that gave the gunner increased visibility as well as allowing them to cover the area under the tail, traditionally where bombers are most vulnerable. The Eclipse is one of the 3 strategic bombers available in the core airplane catalog, alongside Markgraf Volksfestung A, which I previously talked about, the Tiger Mammut, and the Tiger Schnells Mammut, which I have also talked about before. Does this thing count? I'm actually not sure. It does have 20 bomb loads, so I guess it counts. Among the 20 bomb mass bombers, the Eclipse is slow, horrendously expensive, easy to stall, has short fuel range, and lacks quite a few quality of life stuff the Mammut enjoy. However, the Eclipse is the most agile of all strategic bomber, has the highest drop-off which allows it to pick up more speed with boost easily, and it actually has gun pointing downward to protect its soft belly unlike the Mammut, so while the Eclipse might not be affordable, it can defend itself better and maintain its speed quite well. This plane also has quite a few variants, like the earlier ZB model, which has Bertha F1466 engines instead with lighter weight but lower power, resulting in a slower but more agile aircraft, but also no gun pointing downward, the still earlier ZC model which has F1466 Uber engines instead, which is more powerful but less reliable, and has forward machine gun replaced with light repeating cannon instead for more firepower. It's still kinda slow to be honest. The ZE1 model with 5 IAF supercharger mounted on their engines, which you have to manually add through the engine builder by making these changes. Remember to select custom section before clicking this to save it, otherwise it won't work. This significantly increased the power of the engine and allows the plane to function as high-altitude bomber at a height unreachable by most airplanes. And finally, the ZF model, which has Bertha F2080 Uber engines, powerful yet light engines that improve its speed and handling, but are also kinda unreliable. As a conclusion, the Theler Eclipse ZD is a highly agile strategic bomber that can defend itself from any direction with quite a hefty payload, unless you are defending yourself from crippling debt. Next up, there's the Mitchell IGJA81, it's something, I guess. Johann Farman's final full design for MiG before his untimely death testing weapons mounts for the JA-83 fighter, the JA-81 essentially resembles an upscale J-79. Intended for use as a fighter observer, the aircraft was forced to resort to an inline engine rather than Farman's preferred rotary due to stability issues, resulting in disappointing handling. However, the type was sturdy enough to stand up for itself in a fight, and the gunner could gain an excellent field of fire by standing on their nacelle backwards and firing the pilot's machine gun astern. A series of bomber variants were eventually produced as well. Ritter, flush with success from the Sperling, also licensed the JA-81 but only built a few hundred before focusing on scout production. So, this is a weird one. Let's get all the technical out of the way first. The JA-81 is slow as all hell, not very agile at all, and it's like flying a brick, but it is very tough, because it's a brick. It also has high visibility because the wings are all behind it, and while the engine isn't quite reliable, it is cooled by a high offset radiator, so even if it gets shot, you can cool down properly for one more time. It also carries 10 massive bomb for you to ruin someone's day down below. Now, we can actually talk about the really weird part of this plane, the weapons. The pilot has access to an omnidirectional LMG. I say omnidirectional with big air quotes because you can clearly see that there's no way for the pilot to aim backward unless they have a really long arm. The gunner also has access to their own LMG that can be aimed forward or upward, but they can also stand up to man the pilot's LMG to shoot over the wing and towards anything behind or below the plane. Now you are probably asking, is this plane real? Unfortunately yes. It's called the Royal Aircraft Factory FE2B, and yes, the observer can do this incredibly dangerous move to shoot things behind the aircraft, and let me just bring up the description brought up by an American ace, Frederick Libby, who has served as an observer in the FE2B. When you stood up to shoot, all of you from the knees up was exposed to the elements, there was no belt to hold you, only your grip on the gun and the sides of the nacelle stood between you and eternity. You had nothing to worry about except being blown out of the aircraft by the blast of air or tossed out bodily if the pilot made a wrong move. There were no parachutes and no belts, no wonder they needed observers. I'm starting to think that pusher planes aren't unpopular because of their inefficiency, it's because they are designed by complete nutcase. So anyway, this thing has so many variants, like the Ritter Coke Raby, a Ritter licensed variant which removed the gunner flex gun and, well, give them a rifle or something I guess. The Z81, a dive bomber variant which replaced the gunner with an internal 10 mass bomb bay, also removed the gunner LMG, and has dive brake, which slows you down when diving by trading 1 altitude for 2 speed instead of 3, so you don't ruin your engine by going over the overspeed. Next there's JA81/83, which has gunner flex gun replaced with a fixed one for the pilot, and the JA81/87, which has the really powerful Wollstonecraft Vertidiger C engine with additional external fuel tank, speeding up the plane, but making it way more expensive. So, well, it's the cheapest fighter bomber plane with 10 bomb mass. Okay, that's all you need to know about this plane. Lastly, there's Arntweka C.10, the cheapest standard issue plane around. Likely the single most common aeroplane in the entire world, the C.10 is a modification of an unarmed civilian craft, the C.8, equipped with a single gun and an interrupter gear. Thus, the first armed scout that was safe, reliable, and effective. The C.10 was Gotha's standard scout, and there were many imitators. They were pulled from frontline service by the mid-1580s, but they were so inexpensive that they continued production as a militia plane. They may still be being made, given that Goth armies seem to have an almost unlimited supply of them, and desperate circuses sometimes find themselves forced to fly them. As the first armed scout that was safe, reliable, and effective, there's exactly zero thing remarkable about the plane. It's slow, but thanks to its high handling, and all the bonus from wing warping and rotary engine, it can turn like crazy, so that slow speed is actually an advantage. It's also decently tough and, it's basically like most early single gun scout, cheap, slow, but very agile. You already know how well this thing works at this point, so there's not much point to elaborate further on it. As for the variants, the C.10 is old enough that it has went through many engines, and modern Goth 1 tend to have the Schreiber B9 engine, which push the speed up to 16, but the real change came from the C.11 Ace variant, which has a 170 HP Rona ZZ22 engine you have to custom make in the engine builder. Just follow the number here and you can make your own one. The C.11 also has 2 additional machine guns, maybe add an extra fuel tank for proper fuel range, and if the stability scare you, bend the wings a bit. The result is a plane that has a lot of firepower and speed while still being quite affordable, but it suffered badly from the weight, lowering its agility and significantly increasing its stall speed. You might not want to get too slow in this thing. So anyway, if you are finding holes in your wallet, you can probably find an Arntweka C.10 just about anywhere to fly. And that's all on these 3 airplanes, from the heavy Theler Eclipse ZD with a big payload and gun coverage in every direction, the dangerous as hell Mitchell IGJA81 that should have slip caution sign on it since bullet is the least of your worries, and the basic Arntweka C.10 that just works occasionally as a dogfighter. That's all for now, and I will see you all next time. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell button. If you really want to support my channel, you could visit my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.